Hey, my name is Beb. This is something a little unusual. I'm not talking about video games or reflecting on the failures of myself and others. This is a primal cry of rage. Something that's been fomenting since my childhood and now bursting forth, unable to be restrained any longer. Quidditch is fucking stupid. Now, off the top, I gotta talk about a few things. First and foremost, J.K. Rowling herself. No. I'm instead gonna lay my stance down unambiguously so there is no doubt. Trans women are women, trans men are men, and views are valid. I'm not about to release this during fucking Pride Month without saying that. If any section of those is disagreeable to you, I welcome you to fuck all the way off and educate yourself. Maybe one day you'll be a nicer, kinder, more well-rounded person. But also, fuck Joanne Cohen Rowan. She's a bad world builder, a myopic person, and a fucking turf. I will say many disparaging things about her and her world here, and I will mean all of them. However, I will not call her a bitch. That's a term with a lot of baggage, and dudes rush to say it anytime any woman displeases them at all. And honestly, in my eyes, the worst sin is that it's uncreative. I also won't be talking about the lore behind the fake sport unless it's actually relevant, as it's basically all post hoc rationalization to explain why it is that it's so fucking dumb and makes no sense. I did read everything I could find, and will be citing my sources as needed. Also of note is that there's an interview she gives where Jackknife Rowling says that the rules are intentionally vague and annoying to frustrate men, but honestly that just feels like cope. And I also don't give a shit. Being too serious about random garbage is kind of just what I do as a person. Now let's get Rowling. For the blessedly unaware, Quidditch is basically soccer with one whimsical twist that really works, and a lot of others that don't. First, we'll go over the positions in the balls. Keeper's your goalie, that's really it. You're also 50 feet in the air and have to defend 3 goals instead of 1. But since the game has even harsher offsides rules, you're basically only ever handling one-on-ones. Chasers, an inherently funny thing for a transform to pick as a name, are contending the goalkeeper with the quaffle, usually a red leather ball. There's 3 chasers per team, and they handle, honestly, the least magical ball. All it really does is fall slow, and they just chuck it into a hoop. Beaters are the most interesting position to me. They're armed with metal-reinforced wooden bats, and their job is to keep the bloodthirsty bludgers, who want to kill you, off of their team and onto the opposing team. They're most similar to like hockey enforcers, using both the bludgers and themselves to play defense and offense. Finally, there is the Seeker. Their sole job is to catch the wily and fast golden snitch and thus end the game. They're not quite like soccer strikers or home run hitters, as they're kind of playing a mini game that's also the clock. Honestly, they're just a given team's fucking chosen one. If that team has a singularly important person, they're probably their fucking Seeker. Now that we have the basics, it's time to get into the really insane shit. The rules. Scoring is a nightmare all its own. A score with the quaffle is worth 10 points. Sounds like a fair enough number. The snitch, aka the game ender, is worth 150. While it was a deeply insane choice to make the focal point of a game a reflection of historical bird murder, Jipper Kipper Ripper decided that was a totally fine thing to do, but we're gonna sidestep that. I'm talking about the sport here. You have to be down 16 goals for your team to catch the snitch and lose. It's really a plot point in the Goblet of Fire that losing by catching the snitch is insanely rare. Quidditch has a pro league, and I gotta imagine it's pretty rough to be purpose-built, to be a second banana to a star player who's just not even playing the same game as you. The quarterback might be the focus of a football team, but he's not sitting on the sidelines playing Candy Crush on his phone to score. Even saying the point differential is what determines league games doesn't help, as the game's borderline untimed and encourages stalling if you don't have a high enough lead. You might have some pushback on my statement that the game is functionally untimed, but let's drill in. There's only 2 ways for a game to end: catching the snitch or an agreement between captains. From what I could find, the record extremes are 3.5 seconds and 6 months. So you could gear up for a game and be signing up for a round as short as Ben Askren or as long as the fucking Battle of Verdun. Now, if you know a little sport ball, you might be thinking, well, it would prioritize having a deep bench, just in case you can't close the game out fast, so you're people don't get really tired and hurt. Let me trigger the trap I just shoved you into as I introduce a new rule: no substitutions. I realize how genuinely unhinged it is to have a sport with no bench when you can go for half a year. Exhaustion injuries and honestly fatalities would be pretty commonplace, as even with good conditioning, the human body is not meant for infinite sport. Magic is not going to sidestep that. You will eventually fuck up and really hurt yourself. G-forces alone are going to make keeping your grip on a fucking broomstick pretty difficult, and that only gets riskier as the game goes on. In a fucking World Finals game, a player gets concussed, is given potions, sent back in, and gets concussed again. The opposing seeker gets his fucking nose shattered mid-game, and no one does anything. A lot of this raises a lot of questions that sports do anyway. How long do careers last? Do people even give a shit if Quidditch players get CTE? Do they have potion steroids or some kind of magical doping? If so, is there a ministry anti-doping agency? The human cost of sports I already do like and follow is on my mind all the fucking time. Much less if a football was made of iron and actively trying to fucking kill you. If you want to be whimsical, be whimsical. If you want to make something tangible, maybe put in some fucking consideration. But at least there's protection on the field. Have you been fucking paying attention? Of course not. The fucking pitch is 500 feet long, 180 feet wide, and the players move at high speeds with massive vertical element because there's no top, and there's one fucking ref on a broom. While there are judges on the edge, apparently, to determine what's out of bounds, there's no real indication they make literally any other calls. In fact, in that World Cup final that I mentioned a second ago, there is no edge refs, and the only ref there misses several fouls because he gets fucking bewitched by cheerleaders, and the aforementioned nose shattering he doesn't even do anything about because he's the only person who can separate a mass brawl on the field. What the fuck is going on? Okay, so fouls. Let's talk about fouls. Let's just talk about refs. What happens when a foul occurs? The fouled team gets a defended shot on the goals with a quaffle. That's it. That's the only listed game penalty I could fucking find. No fouling out, no red or yellow cards, just the one penalty. I've seen suspension mentioned once, and I have no real indication of what they could be for outside of context clues. It could have been for off-the-field violations, and I don't fucking know. Okay, what even constitutes the foul in this fucking shithead game for morons? Allegedly there's 700, but I wouldn't expect a writer even as annoying as Jampers, Campers, Rampers to write all that out. Most of them are made impossible by blanket bans on wands and magic, and a majority of the remaining, quote, not occurring to even the dirtiest of players. Keep that in mind, it'll be important. According to the lore, the 10 most common fouls are blacking, bletching, blurting, blumping, cobbing, flacking, haversacking, quaffle, pocking, snitch dip, and stooging. Some of these are just mirrors of fouls in real sports. Blacking is roughing the passer, cobbing is unnecessary roughness, flacking is goaltending, stooging is offsides, pocking is tampering with the ball. Of interest to me in particular are bumping and snitch nip. Bumping being one of the most common fouls is concerning, to say the least, especially since there's not even a fucking net in the stands to slow down a 10-pound iron ball who hates people. It's like if every game was casually risking a Le Mans disaster and only gives the person who attempted a homicide the potential loss of 10 points. The real killer here, though, is snitch nip. Only the seeker can catch the snitch. But there's no substitutions. So... Alright. Let's look at Quidditch like a real sport. We're talking about a dangerous, potentially long-lasting game where you don't have any relievers. The only ways for the game to end are for you to agree to it or to catch the snitch. Penalties don't have any complexity or depth, and don't seem to do much outside of potentially inconvenience you. How are you encouraged to play? My answer, personally, is very, very simple. The most brutal, stalling, slow-paced gameplay possible. Your main target is a seeker. You don't want to slow them down, you want to take them out of the goddamn game. Hit them with the bludger, hit them with the beater's bat. Your objective should be to make them regret mounting a goddamn broom. Who cares if you give it some fouls? Once their seeker can't play, you effectively have the game hostage. Now the enemy team has two options. Do what you do, attack your seeker, or give in to your demands lest their entire roster get decimated with the man advantage. You could, in theory, slowly gang up on and take out the entire enemy team until you can just score with impunity and you decide the game's over. All the penalty shots in the world do not matter if you could just run the goddamn tables. But if the enemy team embraces this same style, Quidditch becomes brutalization on brooms. The games would get very physical very quickly, as teams would be desperate not to be overwhelmed and lose the man advantage. While broom-based combat does sound kinda neat, it's hard to really look at it that way when you are encouraging 11-year-olds to participate in what would basically be flying gang fights. While American football and other sports can be really hard on kids, there's also a big incentive not to bust someone's head open like a melon you dislike. Quidditch doesn't really have literally any of that in place. And since you're not even allowed to have a bench, the entire fucking situation spirals out. You field a team or you forfeit, players get more beat up more quickly over the seasons, and with the rules as they are, there's nothing stopping you as a brutal team from doing that to people. This is a game whose incentive sets are telling you to break bones and concuss people. And the fucking CTE that you want to hand out is surpassed only by Power Slap, and this is the main fucking sport wizards play. You can say I'm overthinking this, and I say, what are you fucking new here? I could offer suggestions on rule changes, but honestly, I don't fucking want to. You have to rip this down to the goddamn studs. Harry Potter as a world is such a good place to make your own, as it's so hollow and empty. You can fill it with the genuine light of creativity and the acceptance that you want to be there. Do not make the mistake of confusing the world you made with the fun, flighty little game of wizard soccer that you do every once in a while. It's kind of like a fun plot development with the angry, bitter, frustrating one made by a turf with mold-induced brainworms. Quidditch is fucking stupid. J.K. Rowling is a fucking hack. Do yourself a solid and read another goddamn book. Later.